The first time he kissed me was in front of 100 cameras, and I hated him for it. The second time, there were no cameras, just us, and I hated myself for wanting more. Our marriage was never meant to be real. It was a weapon, a scandal wrapped in vows designed to crush me. Ethan Carter, the golden boy of New York politics, had dragged me into the spotlight, binding my name to his in the cruelest way possible. And I, Julian West, the artist who preferred canvases to crowds, was left choking on the lies he told. But here's the thing no one tells you about hate. It burns close to love. And sometimes, if you let it, it reshapes into something far more dangerous. Julian West had never asked for fame. He was content painting the world in colors people rarely saw, keeping his truth quiet in a society that loved to tear men like him apart. But Ethan knew exactly where to strike. One reckless tabloid rumor about Julian, one slip of fabricated scandal, and suddenly Ethan was offering a solution to public marriage that looked noble, generous, even heroic on Ethan's part. But behind closed doors, Ethan made his intentions clear. "This isn't love, Julian," he had whispered on their wedding night, his voice dripping with victory. "This is war. You'll regret ever crossing me." Julian had stood there in silence, gripping his trembling hands. He had not crossed Ethan, not knowingly. But the man seemed determined to believe otherwise, and Julian was left shackled to him in a marriage that felt like a cage. At first, every day was survival. Ethan paraded him around at galas, dinners, fundraisers, his hand possessive on Julian's waist, his smile dazzling for the cameras. Behind the scenes, though, it was a different story. Their arguments cut deep. Julian accused him of cruelty. Ethan accused him of weakness. And every night, Julian told himself he would not cry in front of the man who had stolen his freedom. But time has a way of peeling back masks. One evening, after a particularly brutal fundraiser, Julian found Ethan in his office, slumped over, his tie undone, a glass of whiskey untouched at his side. The man who had seemed so untouchable looked broken, and Julian couldn't stop himself from asking, "What are you running from?" Ethan didn't answer. He just looked at Julian with eyes that were no longer cruel, but haunted. It was the first crack in Ethan's armor, and Julian hated himself for noticing. The shift was slow, like winter melting into spring. Ethan began showing up at Julian's studio unannounced, watching him paint in silence. He stopped correcting Julian's posture in front of cameras, letting him be himself. Once, when Julian's hand trembled holding a wine glass at a gala, Ethan covered it gently, whispering, "I've got you." And for the first time, Julian believed him. Still, their relationship was built on a lie. Every moment of warmth was poisoned by the memory of Ethan's vow to ruin him. Every touch was suspect, every lingering glance a trick waiting to collapse. Julian told himself he couldn't trust him, wouldn't. But the heart doesn't listen to reason. The turning point came on a rainy night in Manhattan. Julian had fled their apartment after yet another argument, his chest tight, his mind unraveling. Ethan found him hours later, soaked on a park bench, sketchbook ruined by water. "Why are you here?" Julian had demanded, his voice breaking. "Haven't you done enough?" Ethan knelt in front of him, rain dripping down his sharp features, his voice low and raw. "I thought destroying you would make me feel powerful. But it didn't. It made me feel empty. You're the only thing that makes me feel real anymore, Julian." Julian stared at him, shivering, torn between fury and the terrifying truth of how desperately he wanted to believe him. That night, when Ethan kissed him without cameras, without witnesses, it wasn't about power. It was about survival. And Julian kissed him back. But love born from pain is fragile. Their bond deepened secret laughter in the kitchen, late-night confessions, the comfort of falling asleep in the same bed, but so did the risks. If anyone discovered their truth, Ethan's career would collapse, and Julian's heart would be collateral damage. The world believed their marriage was a stunt. What no one knew was that it had become their lifeline. The climax came during Ethan's re-election campaign. A rival exposed documents suggesting their marriage was fabricated. A ploy. The media swarmed, hungry for blood. Reporters shouted. Flashing cameras blinded them. And Julian felt the old terror grip his chest. He expected Ethan to throw him under the bus, to protect himself, to finish what he started on their wedding night. Instead, Ethan pulled Julian close in front of the world, his voice steady but his hands trembling. This marriage began for all the wrong reasons, he admitted. But somewhere along the way I fell in love with him, and I'd rather lose everything than lose him. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then the questions, the outrage, the chaos. But through it all, Ethan's arm never left Julian's shoulders. And in that moment, Julian realized something had changed. Ethan wasn't holding him as a shield anymore. He was holding him like a man terrified of losing the only person who had ever truly seen him. The scandal didn't vanish overnight. The public was divided, the media relentless. But the war between them was over. Their marriage, once a prison, had become something neither of them had expected a refuge. Some nights, Julian still traced the scar of old wounds in his mind, remembering the pain Ethan had caused. But then Ethan would pull him close, whispering, "I'm not letting go." And Julian would feel the truth settle deep in his chest. They had been enemies. They had been strangers. They had been forced into vows meant to destroy. But in the quiet aftermath, they had become something else entirely. They had become home. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.